Let me back up for just 1 second then and say that I'm so excited that we're going to be working together. Whiteboard's a labor of love for us. We've spent a lot of time and effort on it. And so we are so excited that you've decided to partner with us. We're stoked to be able to work with you and help you automate your business. Loan officers are the only category of clients that we go after. And so we are thrilled that you see enough value in Whiteboard that you're going to want to work with us going forward. So let me turn on my camera too so you can see my amazing handsomeness as we go. There we go. Good deal. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be talking about in this series of 3 webinars, and then also what we're not going to be talking about during this 3 series of webinars. We just want to make sure that we're setting the right expectations. So you're going to hear us say the 3 keys to using Whiteboard, or the 3 keys to success. It's got a couple of nicknames, but it comes down to the fact that there's 3 things that if you do within Whiteboard, you're going to be successful. We're going to cover that. That's going to be the primary focus of today's conversation. In doing so, we're going to take a tour through Whiteboard. I want to show you a day in the life of. You've probably already seen some of this in working with our sales folks, but I want to make sure you see it in a real application, day in the life of sort of environment. We're going to talk a bit about texting in Whiteboard. Most likely you got texting along with your Whiteboard subscription. The vast majority of our customers do. There's way too much happening on people's private cell phones, and so people are pretty excited to be able to have their texting conversations living within Whiteboard or living within their CRM right alongside everything else that matters. And then finally, there's this concept called pipeline sequences that sort of lives at the heart of all of the automation that Whiteboard's doing, and I want to make sure we have a quick overview of how that looks today too. There are some things we won't be covering, and I want to call them out. Your success coach will be helping you out with these items. I want you to think about these next 3 sessions as general, everyday usage, right? There are things that you're going to want to do that are specific to you, things that are, customizing content or the flow of the campaigns. You can ask questions about that in here, absolutely. But when it comes to taking action on them, you're likely going to be working with your success coach on those. You probably already have an email with your credentials and whatnot already from your success coach. So their contact information will be in those emails, and I'll also have their meeting links at the end of today's conversation. Importing information. It is my hope that all of you have client data, past funded data, leads coming in from various places that we want to bring into Whiteboard and eliminate a bunch of data entry. We're going to help you with that. But that's probably, again, going to be your success coach helping. We'll talk about some of that stuff in these sessions in sort of an abstract sense, but when it comes to actually doing that work, that's of course going to be one-on-one conversations between you and your coach. So let's get right into it. I'm not going to waste a bunch of your time today in slides. Let's talk about working in Whiteboard. Number one, I don't want you to overcomplicate this. For those of you who've come from other CRMs and you've struggled with them because of inherent complexity, I want you to know that Whiteboard's easy, right? I mentioned 3 things. The 3 keys to Whiteboard success are simply these: log in every day, update the information in the forms as you get it, and then accomplish the tasks. The tasks will create themselves based on the automation. All you got to do is do them. You do those 3 things and you're going to be totally fine in Whiteboard. It pretty much helps you automate everything else. And I'm going to show you how a lot of that works. It's worth pointing out the reason that can be real is because most people are users of Whiteboard, not administrators. And so our day in the life of, your everyday with Whiteboard, you don't need to be administering stuff. You're not creating campaign logic. You're not uploading digital assets, right? There's things like that if you have an administrator, your administrator will be doing for you. Or if you're a one-person show, then no worries, you can do that stuff yourself, but it's probably not going to be an everyday thing. So it's more important that you really get a handle on using Whiteboard in your day-to-day operations. So without further ado, let's jump into Whiteboard and take a look. Let's take our first gander here. So we're starting here at the dashboard, and the dashboard is is basically a launching point. You're not really going to do any work from here. This is a place for you to evaluate what's going on and then take your next step in the day. Let's take a quick tour starting with the chart you see here, the pipeline chart, and you'll notice that there's 2 tabs. Get used to seeing tabs like this throughout. We use these to sort of help you pack more power into any given screen. But these tabs, in this one, I'm measuring the current status of my pipeline. How many folks do I have in lead? How many in prospect? I can see here that I've got 107 in pre-qual, worth about $3.6 million. I've got even more in application, right? And I could filter that by the date range of when this mortgage opportunity was created. So quick launching point where I can see what's going on. And if I want to see all of those applications in one shot, I simply click the bar, and that's going to open up a filtered list of all of my mortgages that are currently in application with all the information that I have out here. And if I want to jump into one, I simply click that row. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves though. Let's go back to the dashboard. Same kind of thing for referral sources. You can see here that I've got four mortgages that have been sent to me by borrowers, but the vast majority of my business comes from agents, right, as referral sources. So the chart, again, you're not consuming a lot of information here. It's just served up to you as a launching point. Let's look below that at recent activities. And of course, if you have questions as we go today, guys, just type them into the questions screen. I'll look over there throughout the day. If you see me doing this, that means I'm looking for your questions. So ask questions in there, and if it makes sense to answer it right there in the moment, I will do so. If I think it's a bit too much of a digression that we need to cover one-on-one with your coach, I'll let you know. But please ask questions as we're going. It's a lot easier to answer them in the moment than to back everybody up 20 minutes if you save it to the end. So ask your questions. So with the chart aside, let's look down at this bottom section here, recent activity. This is sometimes overlooked in day-to-day use, but it's actually pretty important. As you come to trust the automation that Whiteboard is bringing you and try to rely on it, you're still going to want to know what it's doing, right? You're still going to want to know what's been happening. For those of you with teams, you're going to want to know that Mark sent a text message at 3:11 to Floyd, and you're going to want to know that the system automatically scheduled a text message to Don, and so on, right? You're going to want to understand what Whiteboard is doing, as well as what your team is doing as it relates to the mortgages and the clients and partners that you're working with, right? So this section here basically gives you a last 24 hours snapshot of what's been going on, both automatically and manually within your Whiteboard environment. Down here on the bottom left, you can see here birthdays. Now, if you've got the birthday of a client or a partner loaded in, right, if it's on their form, and I'm going to show you that form in a minute, but if you've recorded their birthday, well, Whiteboard always knows what day it is. It knows that today is March 11th. And because it's March 11th, and because Kimberly here has March 11th recorded as her birthday, a couple of things have already happened. Number one, Kimberly will already have gotten an email and a text message by this point, right? That's all happened automatically. But if you want to make a quick phone call, this is served up to you. I can see all these people that have a birthday. So if you're currently managing that in a spreadsheet or an Outlook calendar or whatever to remind you of people's birthdays, scrap that. You don't need it anymore. Whiteboard's going to automatically serve that information up to you and already have acted on it with emails and text messages. Now, your real launching point in here, though, most likely is going to be this top left section. Now, this is a test environment. I'll say that up front real quickly. So some things in here may or may not make sense, right? Being a test environment, things get kind of hairy pretty quickly as we experiment and work with our customers. But what I can see here is that I only have one thing to do today, and then I'm going to go play some golf. I need to make a weekly partner call to my partner, Jose, right? But I can also see that I've got 3 overdue tasks too. Now, let's day in the life of, right? I come in, I've looked at my pipeline, I kind of understand what's been going on the last 24 hours. I made a couple birthday calls. Now I'm going to call Jose because it's Monday and I've got him set up for every week. I'm going to call him on Monday. So I'm simply going to click this row, and that is going to take me into a task screen where I've got all my tasks. In fact, I'll collapse this one real quickly so we can see what's going on. I can see here that I've got a bunch of tasks, some of which have already been completed, one of which is currently started, meaning probably someone else on my team has grabbed this task, so I can't start it now. And then some others like Nathaniel, Jen, and Jose, they haven't been started at all. They haven't been completed. So these are tasks that need to be done. And remember how we said back on the dashboard there were 3 that were overdue. You can see that they're colored in red. I can see here that that my call to Jen, is overdue. I need to make this get application call because she's more than 3 days now past me finding out about her. I need to make last week's Tuesday phone call to my partner, Nathaniel. So let's jump back into the Jose one so you can sort of see how a task is broken down. I mentioned one of those tasks was started out there, a task that I can't claim. I can't do it because someone else on my team already has. If anyone here has ever, been on the phone with your phone provider, AT&T, for example, and you've had a problem or whatever, and you've had to talk to them, and then you get your situation resolved or at least acknowledged, and then someone else calls you from that same organization saying, hey, I heard you had a problem and so on. You end up getting 2 phone calls from the same company about the same thing, right? Whiteboard is designed to restrict that sort of thing from happening. If I'm going to call Jose, I click start this task. When I claim it, that word's important. When I claim it, no one else on my team can take it. It's taken off the menu for them. So now it's got this little play icon signifying to everyone else on the team that this has already been taken care of by somebody, right? Now, once I've done that and I'm working this task, let's take a quick tour here. I can see I've got Jose's contact information, his email address, his phone number. I can see that I've got a call script down here that we already create for you, by the way. You don't have to create these call scripts. You can edit them. You can tweak them to be more your style if you like. But we've created these call scripts with all the basic information to where my loan officer assistant or myself, I know exactly what to say when I call. I can see all the information that I have stored regarding Jose, right? His business address, phone numbers, date of birth. He was, so on August 15th, I'm going to get a birthday reminder for Jose. So I can look through here. I can see that I've got Jose set up to be called every Monday. And if I decide I want to change the frequency because last 4 Mondays in a row, I've not been able to get a hold of him. So I'm going to change that to Wednesdays. We're going to try him on Wednesdays every week or every other week or every month. You just toggle these as needed, right? So I make quick changes here based on what's going on. And when I'm ready, I pick up the phone and I make a phone call. And then at the conclusion of that call, I mark the task as complete and I make some notes and I'm done, right? I complete the task. And now at that point, I go down here and I click on next task. And so in this way, if you've got 5 tasks or 10 tasks to do throughout the day, you just simply accomplish it, next, accomplish it, next, accomplish it, next, right? Start it, claim it, note it, next it. It's pretty simple. You just work your way through until you have no more remaining tasks that are unfinished. Any questions on accomplishing tasks every day? In our second session, we're going to be covering how these tasks come to be, right? I mentioned a minute ago that they're created automatically by the Playbook, by all the automation that lives within Whiteboard. I want to show you a little bit under the hood the next time we chat about why that works and how that works so that there's no black box, no mystery here. We want to make sure that Whiteboard's easy to use, but isn't mysterious. It's cold hard science in here, so it's not hard to understand what's going on. But it is worth pointing out that you will very rarely be creating manual tasks, right? The only time you would be doing that is in the event, you're recording the fact that you're having a coffee date with someone or you've got a golf tee time with a partner or something like that, right? For the systemic, repetitive things, we're going to be automating just about all of those tasks for you. So on Wednesday, in our second session, you're going to see a lot of that behind the scenes stuff to help you understand where those tasks come from. Let's think back to our 3 keys, right? I log in every day, I update information, and I key information, and then I accomplish my tasks. You just saw me do all 3 of those. In the first 15 minutes of seeing Whiteboard, you have now learned how to use Whiteboard. But let's delve a little bit deeper in, and so you can see how information is stored, the types of information that's stored, and sort of how to manipulate it on a daily basis. So to do that, I'm going to go into contacts here, and we'll just pull up a person. And I want you to notice there's a couple different ways to get to who you're looking for. Let's say I want to find, in fact, I'm going to go to the search bar here because this is most commonly what you're going to use. I'm going to look for Emmanuel, and you can see here that I've got clients, co-borrowers, partners, and mortgages, all of whom have EMAN in their names. The person specifically I'm looking for is Emmanuel Kant, right? But you can see here that Emmanuel exists as both a client and a mortgage. So let's talk about that for a minute. Why is he in there twice? Well, I'm going to open up the client record, and I want you to see here the sort of information that's stored on a client record. Now, first name, last name, cell phone number, date of birth, client address. Do you see anything in here about a mortgage? Nothing, right? So at Whiteboard, we believe that there's an inherent difference between the way you speak to a person versus the way you speak to that same person about a mortgage opportunity that they represent to you, right? A person celebrates Christmas or doesn't. A person celebrates Hanukkah or doesn't. A person has a date of birth and a phone number. Mortgages have none of those things. And so we segregate out. We keep the client information separate from the mortgage information. Okay? So if I just got off the phone with this person and through whatever conversation realized they don't celebrate holidays for religious reasons, so I'm going to opt them out of all of my holiday campaigns. All right? Simple. All I do is that one thing, and the campaigns all notice that. And now, come July 4th or MLK Day or Christmas or whatever, Emmanuel here simply won't get those greetings. But so you can absolutely manipulate the person's information. You find out they've got a new phone number, and you can pop it in right there, right? Easy peasy. Updating personal information in a form. Now, mortgages. If I click on this mortgages tab here, this is where all the information about this mortgage lives. Excuse me. And so here, notice that my little drop down here has changed. I've got client information and holiday information still available to me. I can toggle back and forth real quickly. But now I've got a new form for mortgage information. And so here I can see that I'm looking at a funded loan. It was funded in 2008. It was a purchase for a primary residence at $425,000. It was a 30-year fixed loan. I guess I don't know what the interest rate is, but if I knew it, I could simply type it in, right? I know that this was the address. I can see my needs list. I can see, who the buying agent was, who the selling agent was. If I want to add a partner to this because the listing agent was Nathaniel Apple, I can simply type it in. It looks into my partners database and says, oh, there's someone with NATH in their name. So here are all the people that you could mean. And I click the one I want. And then I hit save. And so I've got all this partner related information all right here, easily accessible. And it's important to point out over here that I've got access to not just that funded mortgage, but underneath the same client, I've got an application that's currently in the works. So let's talk about that for a minute, because there's an unfortunate tendency in this industry. A lot of folks use their LOSs sort of as a CRM. And one of the downsides of that is that an LOS sort of sees all information as mortgage information. And so if this situation here where Emmanuel had gotten a loan through me in 2008, and now he's looking at a new loan 11 years later, then I might have two competing sets of information on Emmanuel, the human, because they're being housed within a mortgage. We sort of flip the script on that. We have a human record who's got the phone number that I can update as needed, the addresses I can update as needed, and then segregated records of the mortgages that Emmanuel's done with me living separately. And so you can imagine here, if this were an investor or a commercial relationship or just someone who buys and sells houses like I change shoes, then you could have dozens and dozens of mortgages living here, maybe multiple active at one time, right? But a full chronology of all of the mortgages that you've been working with this person on over time. And if I want to create a new one, I just simply click new, right? Make sense? Any questions on that, anybody? Let's go into this application real quickly that Emmanuel has going on and see what sort of information we have here. And let's play with our imaginations for a moment here. Let's say we're on the phone with Emmanuel right now. We've already got an LOS number figured out. Donald here referred this mortgage to us. We pre-qualified Emmanuel on the 5th, right? We found out, we know that it's a purchase. We know that he's thinking about a $350,000 loan. We've learned all this information that's going on. He's a veteran, so he's going to be using his VA loan here, 360 months. So we're just filling out information as we have it. Obviously, he hasn't put an offer down yet, so we don't have property information, right? We just have the basics so far. I need to request Emmanuel's driver's license, and so I've got that marked as outstanding for when I start my needs list requests from him when we get farther along and I need to start collecting information. I can start marking, well, I know that he's never been divorced, so I can mark that as NA, right? He's not retired, so I can mark this as NA, right? That way I'm later not requesting from Emmanuel information that I don't actually need, right? Fill out information. Nathaniel is our buying agent, so I'm going to make that quick association. So I've learned some new information, and I hit save, and that form has been updated. Now, the key thing here for automation purposes is that all of those automation campaigns are out there actively listening to these form fields. So when I change something from application to funded, or from prospect to pre-qual, or from follow-up to canceled, or whatever, the campaigns are out there all actively listening for that. Is it application now? Is it application now? And as soon as it is, once you mark something as application, that kicks off a flurry of activity, emails, phone calls, text messages, that keep everyone who needs to know what's going on in the loop, right? A quick example to that is down here in the milestones. Whenever you get to the point in the mortgage process where the appraisal comes in, instead of you having to remember or store a template or have some manual process or delegate to your team to go send 5 emails out, right, to all the people involved with the mortgage, the borrower, co-borrower, both sides of the real estate equation, builder if there is one involved, all you do is click the appraisal received button and hit save. That's it. That's all there is to it. At that point, Whiteboard hears that, the campaigns notice it, and say, okay, well, I'm going to queue up these emails and send it out to everyone who's associated with this mortgage. So it's worth pointing out, your usage of Whiteboard happens here on the form. You do not need to go to the campaigns to insert people into them. I'll show you some of the campaign stuff on Wednesday, but we talked about using versus administering Whiteboard. Going into the campaigns and messing with them, that's very much on the administration side. You don't need to worry about that on any kind of regular, ongoing, daily basis. So log in every day, update information on the forms as you see here, and then simply accomplish the tasks, because the campaigns are going to hear these form updates and create tasks based on them. New lead comes in, new task. Hey, give this person a call, that kind of thing. Let's look real quickly at how a client record here with a mortgage is a little bit different from a partner record now. So we kind of looked around here. Let's take a slightly deeper look on the left side. You can notice we've got 4 more tabs over here. And so if I want to make this phone call, I don't have to go to the task screen and look at that task along with all the others. If I've got a task for specifically Emmanuel here, then I've got my call script and everything, and I can start the task from here and complete it from here. And I can make my notes from here, right? So if I happen to be in a record that's got a task that's due right now, I can do the task right now. If I want to create a fresh task from here, I can do that too. I simply click New Task, and I can create a new task for, this Friday. It's a high priority or a low priority task, and I want to say, golf tee time, right? And I could go down and create this whole task out. I won't, but I could create this task. So on Friday, it will remind me about my tee time with Emmanuel, right? I can see what campaigns Emmanuel's currently in. Now, he isn't in any at the moment, but if he were, I would be able to see the name of the campaign as well as a rendering of all the emails and text messages that are being sent to Emmanuel and to partners that are related to Emmanuel. Remember these down here. That appraisal received comes in, and that would show up over here. So I can not only see what was sent to Emmanuel, but also to Nathaniel right here within one window. I can see what groups this person is a member of, and I mentioned earlier that this person's a veteran, right? They're going to be using the VA, and so I've got them in my vets group. I can also add them, to my friends group. I'm playing golf with this person. I've become buddies with Emmanuel, so I can now say that that's one of my friends, right? And so I can use these groups later for targeted marketing. If I want to do newsletters or custom campaigns, or if I just want to have the information that I can dissect and understand in different ways, then I've got these groups that are available to me, right? And there's no limit to this. You can have thousands of groups if you want to. It just depends on how you want to store and manage your data. And then finally, we've got this partners tab here that shows me that Donald is attached to this loan as the referrer, and Nathaniel is attached to this loan as the real estate buying agent. And those are, of course, there because we have Donald in the form listed as the referrer, and we have Nathaniel in the form listed as the buying agent, right? So now I can go over here, and if I want to go look at Nathaniel's record so that you and I can look at the difference between a client record and a partner record, I'm just going to click on Nathaniel, and you'll see that the screen will change, but subtly. The skills that you just learned as it relates to interacting with a client record are the same as in a partner record, with one significant difference. The mortgages tab serves a different role here because, of course, Nathaniel's not a buyer, Nathaniel's a partner. And so what's my relationship with this partner? Well, you can see here that Nathaniel is currently, he's referred to me 3 loans that are still living in the prospect phase. I've got 4 that are in the application phase, and I've got 5 that we funded together. And so as a total value, I've got $3.8 million worth of business that I've worked with Nathaniel here on, and that's not even counting these 3 prospects that don't necessarily have a value attributed to them yet, right? So you can have these quick, sharp, concise conversations with your clients and your partners saying, hey, you know what, Nathaniel, how cool is it that we've funded $2.3 million together? Have you heard anything from Nathaniel? I think things are from Emmanuel. I think things are kind of slowing down there, but Carl Sagan's doing great. We're almost funded on him, right? So you can have these quick, really pointed conversations without having to go dig for the information, without having to wait for some report to run. All you do is jump into the partner's record and sort of evaluate the relationship. Right on? Let's go look at Carl Sagan just real fast. Now, Carl's another borrower, just like Emmanuel was, who's got, you know, a loan that's currently in application. I learned what I'm learning, and then, you know what, I need to send Carl a quick text. So notice over here this tab for texting. It's right here in line with your notes. I can see all the notes that I've done back and forth here, where my team has made a phone call, or I've made a phone call, or the system has done something for me, like, you know, this, you know, on December 25th, we sent a Merry Christmas email to Carl here. Well, for texting, I could just go in here and say, hey, Carl, it's Ben, let's get coffee. I can send that message. And that's just a text message that's going to pop up on Carl's phone. In fact, this happens to be going to my phone. So I'm going to take my cell here, and I'm going to reply back to that message. And when I hit reply, that's going to come back in and automatically appear here for Carl. And there it is. I didn't have to refresh the page. I didn't have to do anything. I could just have a real-time back and forth conversation with Carl, and we can chat back and forth as if it was on our phones. But what's really neat is that when I go back here and the next time I come into this record, now my text messaging conversations with Carl are living in line with my notes, so that the next person on my team who comes and interacts with this record can see what the computer's been doing for me, what kind of notes I've left manually, as well as the conversations, all time-stamped and user-stamped. I can see that Ben Laughter sent a text message saying sweet tomorrow at this time of day, right? So texting within Whiteboard just couldn't be easier than that, except to say that you're not necessarily going to be sending a text and then sitting here staring at the screen waiting for the person to respond. If it's an hour later and you don't happen to be looking at Carl's record here, then how do you know that a text came back? Well, no matter where you're at in Whiteboard, you can get to this Conversations tab. And if there are any outstanding ones, there will be a little number here that will indicate that there's an outstanding text message that you haven't seen yet. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. All right, so here we can see the text message conversations that we currently have going on. I'm going to mark one here as unread so that you can kind of see what this looks like differently. So when you see bold, what that sort of means is that the last person to have sent a text was the other person, right? If you're the last person to have sent it, then it won't be bold. If you have not yet replied to your customer, then it's bold like you see here, right? And you can see over here what or who sent. So my teammate Mark has sent a couple text messages, but so has Whiteboard itself in this case, right? And if I want to go into it, I simply click it, and this works a lot like the tasks, where I go in there and I reply, send my message, and then I'm on to the next one. And so you could have someone on your team whose job it is to sort of make sure that text messages are promptly replied to. And they could keep this screen up on one of their monitors, or just come back to it from time to time throughout the day and carry on texting conversations with your borrowers and your partners. And really importantly, they can do it as themselves. Notice how down here I can send as Ben Laughter, or I can send it as someone else on my team. So let's imagine that for a moment. You've stepped out to go have coffee with your client here, right? You're not in the office. You're not looking at this right now. Your assistant is. Your assistant can simply toggle over to your name and send the text under your name. So that way you can still get those points in someone's mind for the touch, but you're not the person actually doing the work. Any questions on texting at all? All right. Now, guys, literally, that's using Whiteboard. You're done. It took us 25 minutes to talk about it, and that was me trying to go kind of slow. That's really all there is to using Whiteboard, is logging in every day, updating information in forms, and then accomplishing the tasks as the campaigns create them for you. I want to toggle back over to our PowerPoint here, though, real quickly, just so that we can kind of get on the same page on some terminology that's going to be key. We even messed around it a moment ago when we talked about moving from prospect to application, or from application to funded, those sorts of things. So the loan process is essentially a pipeline, a sales funnel, as it were, and that funnel has different steps along the way. We call those steps pipeline sequences. And so the first, and there's sort of a sharing of the top rung of this, but the first one in the drop down is lead. So what a lead is something that comes in from Zillow or homes.com. It's unreferred, right? So it's not attached to an existing partnership. It's sort of out of the blue. Maybe it came in from your website. Someone Googled, I need a loan. Somehow they came to you, and now they're on your radar. That's a lead. A referral is basically the same thing, but it's been referred. So you probably know a little bit more about it. You might have more contact information, more context, but your partner, Nathaniel Apple, right? Your partner said, hey, call Ben Laughter, he needs a loan, right? So it's a nuanced difference. Functionally, in Whiteboard, the difference that it makes is that when you mark them as a prospect, that will keep your referrer in the loop as well. So when you get the application in, or if you haven't gotten the application after a few days, Whiteboard will let your referrer know. It'll say, hey, Ben, thanks for telling us about Ben, but Ben hasn't filled out an app yet. Have you heard anything, right? So lead and prospect both exist at the top alongside one another. And then after you get that 1003, that's when the regular loan process sort of kicks in. I see a couple questions popping in. Can I do texting from my phone or get notifications? So yeah, good questions. Notifications, number one. Right now you get an email that is clickable, right? So you'll get an email as soon as a new text comes in from somebody, and you can click that and it'll shortcut you right to that conversations screen that I showed you. We are releasing here in March, maybe April, depending on the App Store's approvals, a mobile app that will allow you to do everything you just saw from a texting point of view on your phone directly, but still keep all the text messages within Whiteboard instead of on your phone's messaging device, messaging application. So yeah, we have a mobile app. It's coming. In fact, I'm going to show you a preview of it on Wednesday. Can you edit the pipeline sequences and add your own? So in a way, yes, in a way, no. There's one or two things within Whiteboard that are so central to the way the automation works that we sort of have to lock down to some degree. Pipeline sequences are one of those. That's not to say we haven't solved this problem in a number of creative ways. So bring this up with your success coach the next time you're speaking to them individually. Let's talk about your specific needs, and then we will look at trying to create a custom pipeline sequence or milestone is usually what it ends up meaning to accommodate your needs. So back to the pipeline sequences we do build into Whiteboard though natively. Let's talk about pre-qual, application, and funded. These typically happen in sequence, right? You start with a lead or a prospect, and then after you get the 1003, with either of those, you're going to move them into pre-qual. That means you received the application, the borrower's looking for a place, and you're just keeping everybody in the loop and staying on top of the ball. So regular phone calls, regular emails, regular text messages are going out to the people who are involved with this loan thus far. Once they've kind of found a place, offers are going down, we're starting to send things to underwriting, we're satisfying that needs list. At that point, you're going to toggle it over to application. And then while it's an application, you're just collecting more information, and Whiteboard is automatically texting, emailing, setting up call reminders to keep everybody in the loop and make sure that you're staying on top of it so things don't fall through the cracks. And then finally, the happy day comes along where everything's gone fine and we've funded the client, right? So now that they're funded, you've still got things that you want out of this, right? The relationship doesn't end here. You're going to take this opportunity to get online reviews. People go to Yelp. People go to Zillow, people go to Google, and they look at the reputation for every type of professional, from carpenters and plumbers to loan officers and restaurants, right? If they're going to engage in someone's businesses, they're likely going to look at reviews first to see how many stars they have. And so building your online reputation can be massively important. Well, if you just had a great experience with a client, we can help you automate requesting from them to get online reviews. So ask your coach about that. It's really, really easy. We've already done the heavy lifting. You've got one box to check. But let's send people to your Google. Let's send people to your Zillow and have them say nice things about you. We also can automate. We've already built this out as well. You can automate an annual follow-up with your client to where a year after they were funded, you've got a phone call and an email automatically going out to them. Right after they were funded, how about a congratulations text message? We've already done all this stuff. So when you mark it funded, it kicks off that flurry of activity as well. And again, it's all about keeping the agents in the loop too. We all know that the borrower's supremely important here, but your long-term success is built on partnerships. And so throughout the process, from the very first day of a lead to well after funded, one of our big goals is to help you automate following up with the partners who are a part of this, so that you can cultivate those partnerships and build bigger referral bases out of them. Key thing to remember though, and I've said this a couple of times, but it's worth repeating, that lead does not lead to prospect. Prospect does not lead to lead. They're both coexisting at the top of the funnel. If someone was referred to you, then you'll want to put them into Whiteboard as a prospect. If someone was not referred to you, then put them in as a lead. Simple as that. And guys, that's it for today as far as things that I had prepared. Next session on Wednesday, we're going to be covering sort of under the hood things. I want you to see why things happen in Whiteboard, not just that they happen, right? It's kind of important that you understand a little bit under the hood as to why this day in the life of can be so simple. So we're going to learn how campaigns work, how they generate tasks. I'm going to show you some Whiteboard mobile stuff, and then we'll talk a little bit about lead sources and how to get information into Whiteboard without having to type it. So be thinking about where you get your data from in the meantime, and that we can address some of those topics on Wednesday. If you haven't already gotten an email from your success coach, then check your spam filter. By now you should have. If not, give us a call, let us know. To that end, I'm going to show you where our phone number is that you can get it. On the screen right now, though, if you've gotten an email from your coach, you'll recognize their name down there. Please go schedule your first session with them so that you can start talking about your particulars as I continue to help you with your day in the life of. And that's it. Let me show you real quickly how to get into our support database, our knowledge base, so that you know how to get in touch with support. From within Whiteboard, if you click support in the top, you'll notice our phone number right here, our email address, and our hours of operation. As you get going with Whiteboard, you might want to add an assistant or expand within your own environment. This is where also you add and remove users. And if you just want to learn something real quickly about how campaigns work or getting the import template so that you can start prepping to get your data into Whiteboard, you simply type in what you're looking for, and we serve up all kinds of information for you to read and consider. But feel free to reach out to the team and ask any questions you might have. In the meantime, I look forward to speaking with you again on Wednesday. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I'll hang out for a few more minutes in case there are any more questions that you guys have for us.